there, hey there, hey there. It's your girl Martisha Sherman, the unapologetic therapist here this amazing Wednesday, November the 19th. Of course, you know I do have a special guest that's coming on tonight to talk about our topic, Wired for Wonder, Unmasking Neurodivergence, ADHD, and Autism with Soul and Science. This topic tonight hits on a different level. With it being Minvember, you know, this month is the month of November, and I call it Minvember because we're talking about men and mental health. So, today, take your seats, sit back, relax. If you have any questions or concerns, be sure to DM me. You can also come on our conversation part, ask your questions if you're on Facebook Live, if you're on YouTube. I need you to like, share, subscribe because, again, November is Minvember and it is Men's Mental Health Month. So, I have a question for you. This is going to be a big mic dropper. Mic dropping right now is neurodivergence isn't a flow, it's a frequency. And today we tune in. And how we tune in and why we tune in is because, again, this is something that has been flown up under the radar for so long till now it's time for us to have those kinds of conversation. Um, Hold on. My guest, let me make sure my guest has uh let's see here. I'm gonna invite my guest in and I have to invite him. Let's see here. Email. Who I think we got the wrong one. Be prepared, you guys. I promise you, you're gonna enjoy this topic. Um, I'm excited about this conversation that I'm having with the individual that's coming on tonight. You know me, I like to be the show, but I like to also be behind the scenes. I want to give people the information to know what it is that's out here in the mental health industry for not just the Black and Brown community, but really for everybody. You know, we all need to be able to uh, have great conversation and talk about mental health. So, with that mic drop on there, neurodivergence isn't it isn't a flow, it's a frequency. So when we're talking about neuro, we're talking about the mind, you know, things of the mind and how it's a frequency. And today, yeah, we will tune in. So without further ado, I would like to bring on my guest who has a whole plethora of information for you. So I'm going to pull him right on in and add him to the stage. And who do I have? None other than my special guest. His name is Delton Cooper, the second, I guess. Is
Yes.
that okay? And what's the name of your company?
It's called lupine praxis.
Okay, so I don't want to butcher it. I'm
Okay.
gonna let you go ahead and tell us all about it. So tell us more about your practice and what you're doing.
Uh, well, I'm Delton Cooper. I'm the founder of Lupine Praxis. And what I do is I help neurodivergent adults and workplaces uh, through overwhelm and confusion that by bringing clarity and understanding and communication, I help them bridge the gaps between different thinkers and help their business succeed in different ways.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
when we talk about that, when did you first found out that you understood or what got you into neurodivergence?
Well, I was recently diagnosed. Actually, it's probably been a year and a week now. I celebrated a week last year of the official diagnosis. And the diagnosis actually came through therapy that I attended after a breakup, a divorce. And I was just trying to get some help and understanding in life. And just through talking through my therapist, and she was able to see some things that I wasn't. And then when I mentioned my son's diagnosis 20 years ago, I guess it all clicked for her. And she kind of led me down the road to understanding that I may be autistic along with ADHD. The ADHD diagnosis was 10 years ago, but adding the layer up to the autistic on top of the ADHD gave me a lot more understanding of exactly how my mind works. And it explains so much in my life.
And throughout the show, I'm going to ask you to elaborate on certain things because coming from a male's perspective, we hear the stories, and I say this all the time. The women are great at telling the stories.
Yeah.
But men are even more greater at the resolution, the resolve of understanding what the story that we're trying to tell. So I can sit here and tell the story, but you could add the toolage, you can add the equipment and what it would look like from a male perspective, because a woman, me saying everything that I'm saying can get through to another woman. But when you have it from a male perspective, guys are like, oh, okay, I get that. And it's not saying that, we are beating around everything when it comes to a man. It's just the verbiage. The language is so different when it comes to understanding and finding out a diagnosis and unmasking that and being able to be open about it. So I have on here just some conversation starters. What does wired for wonder mean to you when you saw the title?
Wired for wonder, it makes me think of acknowledging the fact that our brains are just wired different. We're not broken, we're not we're not broken, we're just different. Our brains function differently.
Right.
And that is what the separation is usually with the communication between neurodivergent and neurotypical people. So when I see that, I just think that it's all about how our brains are wired.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I want you, because it's all about you. This platform, because I want you to get that information out as much as possible.
Okay. And what I was going to say was I want people to understand that it actually is a wiring difference. These differences that I had within my brain and everybody else, as far as autism and ADHD, we were born like this. This is how our brain developed in the womb. It wasn't environmental. It wasn't something we contracted or something that developed over time. No, this is how our brain was manufactured and structured to process information.
Exactly. So in our conversation, when I was like, okay, I gotta have you on the podcast. Let's talk about some things. And one of the things we talked about is when you first realized your brain moved differently. Tell me, how did that affect you from a male's perspective? How did, when you first realized your brain moved differently from those, who have not been diagnosed or anything from that standpoint?
I think most of us throughout our life know we think and function a little bit differently. But I think when I got that diagnosis, it was a range of reactions. The first reaction was, okay, that explains a lot. That explains why people think that I'm standoffish, or why people think I have a bad temper, or why people have said these things about me in my entire life. And once you process that, then you go through a process of almost grief, because you realize how many things in your life played out not the way you wanted them to, simply because the way you process the information was different.
Mm-hmm.
You go through that grief stage, then you go through the stage where you feel like, oh, I got a superpower, and like, then you go through the stage of figuring out what your superpower actually is. What is the one thing that you do well?
Mm-hmm.
Because you read all this material about, people with autism have a special superpower, they have one thing that they're good at. And for me, it's pattern recognition.
Okay.
Yeah. And for me, it's something that I've done all my life that I didn't even realize I was doing it until the diagnosis,
Mm-hmm.
where it was strictly just, I would see human patterns of behavior. I would see human patterns in, like at work, when I had different like jobs working with manufacturing, I could see different patterns of why things worked or why things didn't work. But I didn't understand that it was just my brain works like that. That's what my brain picks up on. But and then saying that, you go through another phase where you realize, okay, my brain is great in this one area, but I'll never be great in this other area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that next question is going to have you to elaborate on it a little bit more, and it says, the question that I have is, why is it revolutionary to name neurodivergence as brilliance? Because the brain is wired differently. And when you have that superpower, when you find out that you have that superpower, it becomes a form where you wanting to display that superpower so much. So elaborate a little bit more on what we was just talking about. Are you there?
And I think that's something else too that people need to really think and realize that when people say a superpower or somebody is high functioning or they're that they're brilliant simply because they're autistic, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
That's a misconception. It's something that people learn watching movies and and the very few, the 1 in 1,000 are actually autistic with high IQs and things like that. So it's really something that's it's just bad information that's been put out there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of autistic people, and that's why they call it a spectrum. There's people that are intelligent, whether they're neurodivergent or neurotypical. They're going to be intelligent either way it goes. The processing is where the difference comes in at. And there's also people who aren't going to be as sharp in certain areas. And that's not because of their neurodivergence. It's simply because that's just where they're at. That's just how their brain functions. So for people to say that everyone with autism is a brilliant and is a genius is a disservice. Because it puts unrealistic expectations on people with the diagnosis. Like, oh, you're autistic. You're supposed to have something brilliant you do. You're supposed to be great at something. You're supposed to be Rain Man at something. You're autistic, right? Right. Show me your trick. Show me your trick. What do you do? And that's kind of disheartening for a lot of people because they fit in the middle range of average, but they're autistic. So the information they process is different in a different way and a different speed.
Right.
But then when you put that label on it, oh, you're autistic, you're supposed to be a genius. That makes it even more difficult and more disheartening to really accept that diagnosis. And that's why a lot of people don't talk about it.
And then it becomes a circus act.
Yes.
So it's like you said, somebody saying I have autism, so that makes me brilliant. That makes me, and you brought up a great movie, Rain Man. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, and I say this too when I'm seeing clients who are on that spectrum or autism, and when they have children who have been diagnosed and they're trying to understand, especially on different ages. And I see individuals starting from age 13 and up But there are times when I'm asked to see someone younger. And when I find out that they're on the autism spectrum, I'll tell the parents, hey, there's this thing that's on, I think it's on Netflix or something. It's called Bluey. And it's a cartoon made in Australia. And Bluey is this character that's on there that has plenty of friends with different diagnoses. So I'll tell the parents, sometimes check that out. Check out different things and try and get into those spaces where your children are, so you can understand what that is about autism. I don't like when people put the stigma on any type of diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Because they make it seem like, oh, it's the end all be all because you got diagnosed with neurodivergence. You got diagnosed with ADHD. You're diagnosed with autism on the spectrum. You're diagnosed with schizophrenia, bipolar, anything that has mental health attached to it. It becomes this big fear of, oh, I don't know how this person gonna act. They may act different. No, they're just, I won't say just the same, but they have a different brain wiring than what you have. Because I say this too, I would rather talk to a person who already know they have a diagnosis than a person who don't have a diagnosis. Reason being, because they already know, compared to somebody who's in denial.
Yes.
About what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
very true.
So give me some informed, if somebody was watching this and never watched it before, give us some informed information about what it is that you've been diagnosed with the neurodivergence and the ADHD and the autism spectrum, and give us your take on it in case we missed something that we never seen before.
Okay, well, my diagnosis is I'm autistic with ADHD, and they call that ADHD. It's the combination, and that in itself is a rare combination for people to have. But most people that have autism do have a coexisting condition as well. Mm-hmm. It could be anything from anxiety to a mood disorder, where it appears to be a mood disorder. And that's something else too that people take wrong too, that it appears to be a mood disorder, but it's really not. It's just the way we process things. And I think that with my diagnosis, I would want people to understand that one of the first things that came to mind to me when I got the diagnosis is I wanted people to understand that autism doesn't have a look.
Exactly.
It doesn't have a look. It doesn't have a sound. If you don't know, you don't know, and for me, people won't know they wouldn't even know I was autistic until you actually talk to me and you see the look, like the things I do. I have to pause for a minute. I have to kind of process what I'm saying a little bit. I kind of take things in a little bit slower. And then you start noticing something a little bit different with the like the timing of my speech, just little things like that. But if you're not looking for him, you just say, yeah, he talks weird and he might be a little slow, and they'll figure out. And that's the thing with humans, they have to put a label on it.
You can say that. Put a label on it. Yeah. You can say that over and over again.
They don't understand it, but in order for them to function and get along with their day, they have to put a label on it. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was wanting to break through that habit of looking at somebody and saying that they're not autistic, mm-hmm. because that's what kept my diagnosis away from me for 52 years, because I didn't look or act autistic, but I was masking, and I've been masking all my life. It was a point till I was masking to myself. There were certain things and certain habits and certain patterns that I wouldn't even acknowledge within myself because I didn't have the information to explain it. So it was just a lot of self-deprecating type thoughts in my head. Well, you can't even get this done. You can't get that done. Why can't you do this? Why do you have a problem doing this? And then after the diagnosis all kind of clicked, it's like, oh, I'm autistic. This is what we have problems with, like executive functioning and planning and recognizing social cues. And we don't understand hierarchy a lot. We hyper focus on things. I know that's me. I hyper focus on things. I go down rabbit holes on anything that catches my interest. And there's a lot of things in life that can be explained simply with just a little bit of understanding.
Okay.
A little bit of knowledge, a little bit of information.
And you touched on something, because I'm going to go back. How, and you said executive functioning. How do executive function and sensory processing, or even just with the trauma that you experience, because divorce, whether people realize it or not, is a form of trauma, because you go through grief as if you would losing a loved one, or losing something that is so of importance to you. Nobody ever gets married to say that I want to get divorced. Nobody ever gets grows up and say, hey, I want to get married so I can get divorced and get married and get divorced and get married. Nobody ever says those things. So how do executive function and social sensory processing, how does that equate, or how does that become impactful with having neurodivergence and autism, ADHD? If I'm making that clear for you.
Yeah, I got it. For me, the executive functioning, I struggle with small tasks. Like I struggle with things simple, like I'll walk past a cup for 3 days that's been sitting on my coffee table. I'll do dishes, I'll clean the kitchen and everything, but for some reason, my executive function keeps skipping that one thing. And that's why a lot of people with autism and ADHD, they have messy houses. What people consider messy houses is because with that executive functioning, the simplest thing can turn into 5 different steps. Like I can look at the cup and be like, okay, if I pick that cup up, I have to go into the kitchen. I need to put it in the trash. But if I put that cup in the trash, then I need to get another cup to start using. But I don't want to use this cup because this cup is still okay. It's well, if I go clean this cup, and so you start this whole cycle about this one simple thing. When it really is just pick the cup up, take it in the kitchen and wash it. But for some reason, you're that executive functioning adds extra. For me, for my personal, the executive functioning adds extra steps.
Okay.
Yeah. And as far as the sensory aspect of it, for me, it's smells.
Okay.
Smells and sounds. And for me, I'm very sensitive to smells. And I have, I can't think of what it's called, but it's actually a disorder where if I smell something that's foul to me, I'll smell it for hours afterwards.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'll smell it for hours afterwards. There's a term for it. I just can't remember what it is.
I can't think of it either, because honestly, I experienced that too. It's like it's stuck in your nostrils.
Yeah, it's stuck in your nostrils. And
it's like
long gone.
Right.
Long gone. Yeah. And it's also for sound. The way it shows up in sound for me is I have to have it very low or very loud. And that middle space, if I turn the volume up, I won't hear the difference in volume until it gets to a level where it's like loud to other people.
Okay.
So with that sensory, with the sound, I hear low and I hear soft and loud. Everything else in between is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that's where it shows up for me with that.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a couple of other things as well, like I'm not so bad with the lighting. The lights don't really bother me. I know they bother a lot of other people, like fluorescent lights and things like that. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very sensitive to temperatures as well.
Okay.
Yeah, very sensitive to temperatures. Like if it's not perfect in like a 5-degree range, I'm
Mm-hmm.
either sweating or literally like shivering
Okay.
because my brain processes the temperatures that's different in my mind.
So there's one question I want to ask, and because I stand on, I tell people, yeah, although I am ordained, I don't beat people around the head when it comes to faith. I only bring up faith when it's addressed with me. How do spiritual practices, mean faith, ritual, meditation, support your not neurodivergent regulation if you use it at all?
I do use it. I'm a very spiritual person.
Okay.
Very, very, very spiritual. I practice meditation. My spiritual lineage is hoodoo, so I have some practices I do with that. And then, as far as beliefs, when I got my diagnosis, for the first 6 months, I pushed away from spirituality and faith altogether because in my mind, I wasn't sure if I was understanding it right. Realizing that I had these processing in the autistic mind, it was almost like a complete reset on everything in my life, which included my spirituality and my connection with God or universe or whatever term you want to use. But recently I'm getting back into that.
Okay.
With that being said, one of the biggest thing that helps me, and I've heard from other neurodivergent people that can't do it, is meditation. But I've actually been practicing meditation for almost 20 years now, off and on. So the meditation is what works for me.
Okay, so now we're going to spark up a different conversation. Let's talk about the nervous system as a scarred or scared system, not just clinical ones. So I'm going to do a mic dropping statement, but then I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
Masking isn't just survival, it's a soul suppression. So when I ask these questions, I'm talking about unmasking the myth, because there is a myth behind the diagnosis. Um, how do race, gender, and culture shape this mask?
That is an excellent question, and that's something I process too. Is as a black man, growing up in the black community, I realized I had to mask twice. I had to mask with society as a whole, and then I also had to mask within my community because as a male, you have to have a certain level of of attitude, or you got to have a certain level of confidence, or you got to carry yourself a certain way in certain situations. You have to use the vernacular, you have to know the body language, you have to know the gestures and the timing, and we use everything from tone of voice to head tilts and everything. And I didn't realize it that was all masking for me. But with my pattern recognition, I recognize this is the pattern that we talk to each other. This is the pattern that I talk to black men with. This is the pattern I talk to white people with. This is the pattern I use for that. So it was never just a natural flow. It was always me going into my data bank saying, okay, I'm with this person now. They're this person. This group of people communicate this way. So here's how I'm going to communicate. So I didn't even realize that I really didn't have my own voice up until a few months ago, because I was masking everything in order just to try to make it through life, to actually try to, hold a job and have friends and have connections and just function out here in the world. You just to be a Black man out here in this world, we automatically have to play two roles.
Mm-hmm.
We have the role we play in the world and the role we play in our community.
Oh man, most
But
definitely.
but when neither one of those are truly you constantly masking. You never get to be your true self. And that was one of the hardest things I had to learn, is like, I didn't have a voice because my voice was completely masking.
And
And
that,
it was a protection. It was self-preservation. It was basically just trying to survive day to day.
and I don't even have to ask no more questions on that topic, because you covered everything of how it shows up in your daily life when it comes to therapy, relationship, and work. But my main question is, how do you create space where people don't have to perform?
Through understanding,
Okay.
through education.
Okay.
I think a lot of times neurotypical people are sometimes they misinterpret the way that we communicate and the way that we act.
Mm-hmm.
As you see, like when we're talking here, you'll see me keep looking away, and I don't maintain eye contact. And it's not that I'm not interested. It's just that's how my brain works.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not looking at you, I'm locked in on what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm processing exactly what you said, and I'm with you. But society figures you're not paying attention if I'm not just staring you in your eyes, and that's a problem for me, and it has been my whole life. I remember as a kid, up until probably I was in my 20s, and this was something that stood out to me after the diagnosis as well, that really kind of hit kind of hard. I was never able to look people in the eye while I was watching television.
Mm.
If I was watching television and the person stared straight at the screen, I would have to look away because it would actually trigger my nervous system. That eye contact would. And it took me till I was in my 20s to be able to do it. And it was something that I knew it didn't make sense. It wasn't right. So I was forcing myself to do it, trying to make myself to be able to stare, at the TV during commercials and stuff like that, to the point where I can do it. I can do it now, but I don't, because I realize what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's something that stood out to me, and that just goes back to different communication styles. I'm very matter of fact. I'm very straight to the point, and a lot of times that's not appropriate for every situation. Sometimes people take that the wrong way. I had one incident where a guy came to me and he was talking about he wanted to open a restaurant, and he was kind of asking me, what I thought about it. And my mind went straight to the facts. I was like, well, do you have this? Do you have that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have this? Okay, well, here's what you need to do. When I worked in a restaurant, here's what I saw management do. Here's what the owner told me. Here's what you need to do. If you don't have that, you're not ready. You need to get this, and this, and that. And then I found out from my other friends that I had really, really hurt his feelings. I had really crushed his dream. It really threw him off track. And I didn't understand why. I'm telling you the truth and the facts and what you need to hear. But
And see,
at that time, that's not what he needed or even wanted. I know now I should have been like, man, that's a good idea. Let me know how that turned out. Let me know if you need anything, let me know.
Well,
man, go ahead.
Well, I have to go on that, because I'm so matter of fact about it too. And it's just it's not so much as being realistic of a thing. It's just giving a person a different perspective. You're going to have those that's going to cheer you on and hope that you don't fail, and hope that you don't hit the bottom before you get to the top. But then you have those who are going to be like, hey, I get it. That's what you want. That's what you want to do. But this needs to happen. This. Like for me, even with being in private practice, I'm new to it, true enough. Been in this industry for over 11 plus years. But I'm getting the hits and the dings to where my associates, who are in the same industry are coming to me, and I'm like, I don't mind sharing my failures. I don't mind sharing the things that got me to where I am so I can better have a better understanding. A true friend will tell you the truth, period, point blank. Whether they love you to the ends meet, you were really being a true friend, even though if he would have took it in the right perspective and said, you know what, let me think about what Delta told me, because that does sound, I don't want to jump out there and open a restaurant and be backpedaling because I don't have everything in order. But a lot of people don't want that unapologetic side.
No, they want the they want to be sugarcoated. They want everybody to cheer for them and be like, yeah, go for it, go for it. But that's not how my brain works. That's not how my autistic ADHD brain works. I work on facts. I work on information. I work on evidence. I work on proof. Show me the track record. Show me this. Show me that. And something else I've had to learn too is that I have to be more aware that there are people that function in this world on feelings. It drives me nuts, but I realize that there are people that live their life and make their decisions purely on feelings.
Yeah. I need to find a diagnosis for that one. I know it's in our DSM-5 somewhere about people focusing on working on their feelings.
Yeah, so I just put it under cognitive dissonance and leave it at that. Right. But y'all don't want to know the truth.
Right. So my next question to you was, what does it mean to be neurodivergent? And we talked about this in previous. Spiritually gifted is what they would call it, because you have, when it comes to having that spectrum, it's pretty much almost like having a discernment in so many ways. You're discerning different things about life and you're seeing life from a different way, and along with having ADHD.
Yes.
So what does that mean to have your diagnosis? And I'm just going to say how it is, being spiritually gifted.
It's a for me, it's really a humbling kind of experience, because I feel blessed and honored to be able to have a better understanding of spirituality than other people. I see the patterns beneath it. I see the meanings behind it. I understand the history of it. And I also see how it connects to people's daily life. And I think that's the biggest thing that I kind of pride myself in, is I can see the spiritual connections to people's lives and how their lives are how they're functioning within their lives and the things that are happening around them.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I like I said, I'm a very spiritual person, but I'm also very factual. So that in itself is not so much of a contrast, but it's a little different views on life.
True. That is so true. Because I know for me, when someone contacts me, I'll say, if you're not ready for me to flip tables, then don't ask me the questions, because I'm going to flip those rugs and I'm going to go deep and get you out of that rabbit hole. But I have to make it applicable to you getting out of that rabbit hole. So what affirmations, Delton, what affirmation and mantras help keeps you feeling seen?
I'm not broken. I'm different. I'm not better than anyone. I'm just different. And I have to give myself grace.
Most definitely.
That was one of the biggest things I had to learn, because I've always been like a perfectionist, and I realized that's impossible regardless of diagnosis or not. But I think with the ADHD and the autism, I was always fighting to be accepted, always fighting to be seen and known and part of society, because we're pack animals, and that's where I come up with the lupine. Lupine means wolf-like.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all pack animals. We all want to be part of something. We're not built to be alone.
Oh, you better say that.
We're not. We're not built to be alone. We're not. That's not how
Mm-hmm.
we're designed as people.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always, yeah, I'll just say, yeah, it was always just a fight to be perfect in a world and with a mind that works differently. So I'm learning now I have to give myself grace with things like autistic burnout. I have to realize now that I'm not being lazy. I'm not letting myself down. I'm not failing my mission. I just need to rest.
And a lot of people don't get that.
I had to shut down yesterday. Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah, believe me, I get it, because even there's burnout in every spectrum. There's burnout in every area, because even as a therapist, we get burnt out.
Yes.
So that means sitting back and just being okay with not responding at that time to what people may deem as an emergency to them. And it's okay for me to say, hey, I'll get back with you within 24 to 48 hours. Let me process this. Or if it's such an emergency, call 911, if you're at that point. Or I'm hearing a lot of feedback about this 988 stuff, and it's disturbing my heart about what's going on with this 988 number that's going on. But I want to go back just a tad bit, and I want you to elaborate with me on this. The grief in your diagnosis. When you stated that when you found out your diagnosis, along with the thing that you were going through with life, with divorce and whatnot, you would experience grief. A lot of people think grief is just a loss of a loved one.
No.
But when you say finding out you had that diagnosis and you went through the stages of shock, then you felt, with that shock, it was like, wait a minute, I feel betrayed. When did this happen? And then you go into those things of those. Now it's 7 stages when it used to be 5, but getting into that point of bargaining. That's where I find a lot of people at when it comes to grief, no matter what it is. You're bargaining. It's like, wait a minute, hold on. Why this didn't happen to somebody else? Why this had to happen to me? Where did this come from?
Yeah. And I think for me, it was a little different. When I say grief, the grief that I feel was the grief for the opportunities and the potential I had. That's what I grieve over.
Okay.
Because I look back now and realize that if somebody just had acknowledged the fact that, hey, he's not a bad kid, he's not broken, something else is going on here. Let's figure out what's going on with him to kind of get him on the right path. That didn't happen. So it was a lot of it was always I was always the kid that had horrible grades in school, but always had the highest test scores. It affected everything from friendships to relationships that I could have handled differently if I had known that my brain was functioning from an autistic or an ADHD point of view. I grieved that. I grieved the different job potentials that I had that I messed up because the sensory overload might have caused me to shut down. So I missed too many days because of burnout. I think about a lot of things. I think of the trouble I was in, the things that I did simply be out of frustration in life for not being understood and not being cared. It was a while there that I didn't even think I existed because I didn't have any connections or any bonds. You know, it was a lot of pain to look back on when you're a young man and you're seeing the cliques and the groups and they're hanging out on the weekends and they're having all their fun and you're not really part of that. You're on the outside looking in on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you start to look back and I can't say regret. I don't think I can say is just grief, just kind of like, man, it could have been different.
Yeah.
But I will say this, once I got through that phase, I went back to my spirituality and I realized that who I am and what I went through is for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It all makes sense now because everything that I went through in my life, I can reference back to and actually use it to help someone else because I've been in these situations. And now that with the diagnosis, now I can say, okay, let me look at that situation from my neurodivergent view.
Mm-hmm.
And let me reanalyze what really happened and what I could have done differently or what I misinterpreted or what I could have said or did or anything like that.
Right.
And hopefully I can take those lessons and help somebody else so they don't have to go through the same thing that I went through. And that was my original purpose for even wanting to be a life coach. I wanted to teach, and I've been a life coach for about 2 years now. So I was a life coach before the diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest mantra when I was a life coach is I wanted to teach people the lessons that I was never taught. That's what my main goal was. I want to teach people the lessons I was never taught. How do you deal with conflict? How do you deal with heartbreak? How do you deal with situations how do you deal with conflicts with other men? Mm-hmm. How do you deal with conflicts with women? How do you make friends? How do you all the things that I was never taught that mm-hmm. I just had to kind of figure out on my own, through trial and error. Mm-hmm. And that kind of goes back to the grief thing. It's like, but I realized I think I have a deeper knowledge base because I've messed up so much. I've done so much. I've made so many mistakes that now I can make a lot of corrections.
And see, I take that as you have now created some tools inside of your toolkit of life mm-hmm. that you can help someone when they're building themselves, that you can say, hey, here's the hammer that caused me to be in this position that we can go in and nail that spot where you're not dealing with that anymore, because I can give you takeaways that will best help you to not see this area again. I made this statement before. A lot of times we go through stuff, grow through stuff over and over again because we never understood the takeaways of why we were in that situation in the first place. Mm-hmm. We are going to always encounter, that's what life is. Life is not promised, we know, but the tools of life are where we can leave those things for people who come across our path.
Yes.
So in closing, and I love how you made that statement, you are not broken. And I say you're brilliantly wired. Mm-hmm. You are a wonder, and it's not a symptom. It is a signal.
Yes.
It's a signal. It's a frequency. And people will gravitate to you for that frequency because they know that you're wired for that. And you can give them that information. So tell people how they can get a hold of you and find out where you are. Because I don't believe you're in Texas. Am I correct?
No, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
See, I was supposed to promote you. You got to see me so I can promote you for this coming Sunday. I've been doing men mental health. So I've been calling it Menvember. Okay. So I can shoot your information out to everybody this coming Sunday because I'm promoting people every week. Well, a man-owned business every week. And I knew we were doing it this week. So I was like, I'm not doing it this week. So I can promote you for next Sunday. So where can we find you at and how can we get in touch with you?
You can go to my website. It's lupinepraxis.com. That's one way to reach me. And if you want to email me, it's just dcoachingkc@gmail.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Are you on all the social media platforms?
yes, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. And I don't really use Instagram or TikTok very much.
Yeah, I'm learning.
And that's why I don't use it, because I'm still trying to learn it.
Yeah, I'm learning. I was like, you know what? This stuff with social media, I was like, Jesus, do I really have to get out there and show my face like that? Because again, being a therapist, we have ethical practices and certain things we can't say that I want to say. So I'm like, wait a minute, I can't say certain things because the board will come after me. But what I do want to say is thank you. We have to have a part 2 to this, because I know there's more to your story than just today. Today to me is just an introductory, laying a foundation, because I want men to see that there are men out here who are newly getting diagnosed and don't understand, and they just think that it's not the end of the world, but it's like, man, how do I process this of finding out that, hey, I thought that I was just like every other man, and you're not.
No.
Everybody's unique.
Yeah, and I definitely, like I said, I do life coaching and organizational insight. So if any of your, the people watching want to reach out to me, feel free to do so.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with the one-on-one coaching is really my specialty in my lane, because we can really kind of dive deep and really get into some things. And like you tell people, I tell people that I'm really not here to be your friend. And I make that perfectly clear before they even agree to be my client. Like, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm not here to make you feel better about anything. That I'm not here to co-sign for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not here to be a cheerleader.
Yeah.
I'm here to help you accomplish the goals that you tell me you want to accomplish.
Yeah. I'm not here to endorse your behavior.
No,
at all.
At all. And I also tell people that it's not up to me to do the work. I can give you all the tools in the world, but if you never swing that hammer, this is not going to work.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So now that we know how to get in touch with you, I really would love for us to do another episode where we can dive a little bit more deeper into your diagnosis as well as your story, because everyone has a story, but we have to tell it. We have to be able to tell it so people can relate to it, those who need to relate and those who need to glean from that information, because there could be a mom out there with a young man who she's trying to figure out what's going on with my son. What's going on with my son? And it goes back to that thought process. Men are taught to be protectors. They're taught to be providers. They're taught to be strong. They're taught to be all these things. But soon as something happens with that man that doesn't seem like the way society wants him to respond, then it's like, oh, well, what's wrong with you? Well, I've been trying to tell you for the longest that these things are not clicking for me. Can we just go and find out where it's coming from without being afraid of the diagnosis or the response behind it?
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because a lot of times that I know personally as a teenager, it was no way that I could express and explain what was going on in my autistic mind back then. And they might not be able to explain it to their parents. So the parent and the kid is frustrated, and everybody's just upset with each other. So I'm hoping maybe that's where I can come in and bridge that communication gap, because that's really all it is. It's just a communication gap.
Yeah. Just imagine how many kids were misdiagnosed back in the days as mentally retarded, or you had a behavior problem. Well, I may have not had a behavior problem if you just simply got me tested and not be afraid of what you're going to hear in a diagnosis, because I'm a young man. and just getting me the help that I need in advance so I can be a more productive citizen in the community than sit up here and you want to say I'm angry all the time and all this other stuff. Yeah.
Lazy, you don't know, get up and do nothing. Maybe he's a full on burnout.
Yeah.
He's not lazy. He's burnt out. He's overstimulated. He's
right.
He's mentally exhausted.
Right.
He's giving everything he can give. Give him a couple days. Chill out.
Exactly. So yeah, we have to have a part 2 about this because again, coming from a male's perspective is great to hear, and a lot of people need to hear that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Definitely gonna do this again.
Okay. Well, we most definitely will. Send me your dates and times when you're available, and I will make sure that we set it up.
Okay, we'll work it all out there.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
All right, Miss Sherman, you have a good one.
You too.
Thank you for having me on too, okay?
It was just a pleasure. I mean, I can't wait for people to do the replay. A lot of people come back and do the replay so they can ask the questions and get that information.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right. You have a great night and enjoy Kansas City. I got to come there. I hear that barbecue is good.
Well, I'll tell you. When you come, I'll tell you where to go. I can't say it out loud. I can't give up my spots, and I don't want to have to fight everybody. So I'll have to tell you, like, yeah. So
okay, sounds good. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Okay. Good night. All right, you guys. Thank you again to my amazing guest, Mr. Delton Cooper. The second. You can find out all his information on my social media platform. You can also find him on Facebook. He's a great person to find out more information about his diagnosis. Wired for Wonder is what this topic was. Unmasking Neurodivergence, ADHD, and Autism from Soul and Science. It's your girl, Morticia Sherman. I cannot leave the show without giving you the information that's going on. I'm not going to say if you don't have nothing to do this Saturday, come see your girl. Color Me Stigma Free is joining up with CLTL Fashion Radio and TV launch that's going on this Sunday. I will be in the place. I have to be. I am there. I have just an amazing lady that I have to support, Miss Lady K. I am excited to be in her presence. I mean, just business guru. I promise you, she has been such a blessing to Color Me Stigma Free While He Can, as well as Therapeutic Escape space. We're excited to join in, be there in the room, get some fashion going on. I gotta find my style. Y'all know me. I'm unapologetic in what I do, so my style has to match it. So also, still be on the lookout. January 24th, Can't Shake Me, Houston's largest mental health circle, is going on January 24th. We will have the location and the tickets are already available, but we will have the space available, I would say before Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving. I want to make it to where it's really a hot topic thing that's going on, because mental health is important. It shouldn't just be a conversation when you see a celebrity or somebody that you have seen on television, social media, before the antennas go up. A moment of silence for the young man who committed suicide, the Dallas Cowboy player. I was informed about that just the other day. You guys, suicide is real. Suicide is real. Seasonal affective disorder is real. Mental health diagnoses are real, but even more so, being a community and teaming up with a therapist or someone in the mental health industry. It don't have to be myself. Talk to someone. Tell them what is going on. Hey, you want to reach me? I say it all the time. You can reach me. My phone is by me all the time. 346-525-4981. You can text me, DM me. You can chat with me. I do have a chat line. where we can talk about things is always anonymous. When it comes to mental health and being a therapist, I am very professional about keeping conversations that we have anonymous unless you say, Miss Marticia, it's okay. Let's talk about that topic. Be on the lookout. Your girl is relocating. I'm so excited about the things that God is stretching me to do. Um, when I say when we know better, we respond better. And when we know better, we do better. And we can respond differently. It's your girl Marticia Sherman, the unapologetic therapist. If you have not gotten your ticket to this event, they're still on sale. You can find them pre-sale is $25. You get food, drink, and fun. You get entertainment. I will be there. Just come celebrate with us. We got to be able to celebrate each other and not think that it's always about us. It's about you, but it's not about you. It's your girl Marticia Sherman. I love you to life. Enjoy your week and don't let anybody else change the temperature of what you're having. Don't let nobody else change the temperature of your life. Life is amazing. I love you to life. Respond better. Respond differently. Good night.